Welcome everybody to this final session of the academic year of the Politics and Sociology seminar series at UCL CEIS. I'm Ben Noble, lecturer in Russian politics at CEIS and co-chair alongside Dr. Aglaya Snetkov of this seminar series. The session is being recorded, so please leave your camera off for the duration if you're in the audience and don't want to appear on YouTube. We're delighted to be joined today by Dr. Dosh Simsek, who will be giving a presentation titled The Hierarchies of Skills, Knowledge Equity and the UK's Points-Based Immigration System. Dosh is currently a lecturer in Sociology and Criminology at Kingston University, London, and a fellow in the Europe-Asia Research Platform on Forced Migration at IWM, the Institute for Human Sciences in Vienna. Before joining Kingston, Dosh taught at CEIS between 2019 and 2020, and I should say it was a brilliant colleague, so Kingston is very lucky to have her. Dosh is going to speak for around 20 minutes before we open up to Q&A, and I'll run through the logistics then about how to ask questions after Dosh has presented her research. So without further ado, Dosh, welcome back to CEIS and over to you for the presentation.
Thank you, Ben. It's great to be back at UCL CEIS. And thank you very much for the invitation, Ben and Aglaya, and giving me the opportunity to share my work with you. I want to talk about the impact of the UK's post-Brexit immigration policy today that is based on points, on knowledge equity in the case of low-wage Polish and Romanian workers, who are referred as the Polish plumber and the Romanian strawberry picker, and represented as a cheap labor arriving from Central Europe and symbolized as uncivilized and inferior. So I'm interested in exploring how this killing of Polish and Romanian workers that is elevated by the Brexit and created the classification of migrants based on their skills and knowledge is impacted on how society and even migrants themselves tend to create their own hierarchical categorizations. The ideas I'm going to present to you today are based on a preliminary study, and it's an ongoing research. So the findings are not the final findings. So I'm going to talk about my research aim and the research questions before I introduce my theoretical framework. So under the UK's point-based system, EU nationals become EU migrants, and among the EU nationals, low-skilled workers, so-called low-skilled workers, might find themselves in a more precarious situation as their knowledge and skills might not be valued. So the research that I'm conducting aims to explore how these categories embedded in the UK's points-based system that affects Polish and Romanian workers' perceptions of belongings, as well as the integration in British society, who are portrayed as low-skilled migrant workers, and whether also that the migrants themselves create their own categories that result hierarchies based on what privileges and or achievements they have accumulated in the settlement country, which might also determine the form and function of their relationships. Through this research, I aim to answer the following questions. How do categories, the low-skilled and highly skilled, embedded within the UK's points-based system affect Polish and Romanian perceptions of belonging and integration in British society? Whether do migrants themselves create their own categorizations that result hierarchies based on what privileges or achievements they have accumulated in their new home, which might also determine the form and function of their social relationships? What is the impact of Brexit and the UK's points-based system on the knowledge dimension of British society, and also, of course, its perception on migrant workers? Focusing on the case of Polish and Romanian low-wage workers in the UK, I argue that practical knowledge and skills are classed, and social inequalities are compounded by knowledge inequalities. So my theoretical framework is following Bourdieu's notion of practical knowledge. So literature, especially in development studies in particularly, has surfaced the questions of whose knowledge counts and in how we understand particular issues such as poverty and how they can be addressed. With the advent of globalization and intensified international competition, knowledge has become the most powerful driver of social and economic progress in the world today. However, where knowledge is being produced become also very essential. There is also a clear cut across the South and North distinctions in terms of whose knowledge counts, and it's also very much related to the political economy. For example, universities and other institutions aim to become more innovative and respond to the needs of globally competitive knowledge economy and to the changing labor market requirements. So I tackle the questions of whose knowledge counts in relation to low-skilled workers. And here I define knowledge as consisting of multiple overlapping skill sets. Knowledge is distinguished into, in the literature, two main types based on whether it is developed through research or in practice. So the scientific knowledge, the way of knowing that is connected to the scientific method, which sets rules about how knowledge is obtained. And also this phenomenon also includes knowledge itself that may be regarded critically as socially defined and also constructed. The practical knowledge, on the other hand, is associated with training or a vocation, and where the skills needed to practice are learned through experiences, are drawn from the professional community. So Bourdieu makes a clear distinction between practical knowledge versus theoretical knowledge. And he talks about the separation of manual and mental work in the capitalist societies. And his notion of practical knowledge exists in a practical state in an agent's practice and their consciousness of rather in their discourse. So he has conceptualized as an individual's habitus, and the individual's habitus these are the set of socially learned dispositions or skills, the ways of acting. They're often taken for granted, which are also acquired through the activities and everyday experiences of everyday life. It is also arising from the experience that are expressed in persons' practices. So in the literature also, Stanley and Taylor also argue that the scientific knowledge is linked with wealth, power, and prestige. Therefore, I was interested in finding out why practical knowledge on strawberry picking and constructing building are not as valuable as scientific knowledge. So this was my starting point, and taking the Bourdieu's notion of practical knowledge. So I aim to explore the knowledge inequity. Before going into my findings, I'd like to give a bit of information about this new immigration policy. So in February 2020, the Home Office of the UK government, they released a policy statement noting that the details of a new era of immigration to launch in the wake of Brexit, and the new system which remains encapsulated in the February 2020 policy statement and is purported to fulfill the UK government's commitment to take back control of its border by ending free movements and introducing a single global immigration system. So the UK's post-Brexit immigration policy was in full force on January 1st, 2021, by the end of the Brexit transition period. And this new system for work visas is based on points. So European Union students will be therefore treated as in the same way as those from the rest of the world. So taking control of immigration also was one of the key themes of the Leave campaign of the Brexit referendum. So what does this point system tell us? So it is more, as you can see on this table, in order to be applicable for skilled work visa, applicants must obtain 70 points. So applicants must meet the following criteria in order to gain these points. After passing the relevant UK criminality checks, applicants must have an offer of a job from a licensed sponsor. The job must be at our minimum skill level. Workers will not need to hold a formal qualification. It is a skill level job that they will be doing, which is important. Applicants must speak English to an acceptable standard. So meeting all these criteria will give any applicants 50 points, but a further 20 points must also be obtained through tradable points, for instance, through a combination of points to for their salary, a job in a shortage occupation, or a relevant PhD. So they also introduced the applicable minimum salary thresholds, and this is the height of either the general salary threshold of £25,600 or the specific salary requirement for their occupation known as the going rate. So all applicants will be able to trade characteristics such as their qualifications against a lower salary to get the required number of points. But if the job offer is less than the minimum salary requirements, but no less than £20,480, an applicant might still be eligible if they have a job offer in a specific shortage occupation. So it will almost entirely close the door on the recruitment of low-skilled and low-wage migrants from the UK. So who will lose out? The government's proposals are likely to make life more difficult for the many enterprises that have expanded rapidly because of the supply of cheap and willing labor from countries such as Poland and Romania. And those migrants are typically paid less than £25,600 annual salary floor that will apply to most roles under the new proposal. And the applicants generally do not require the equivalence of an A level to do the job. Much of the concern is mainly focused on the social care sector, which is already struggling to fill vacancies. Which sectors therefore could benefit? The technology industry, which brings in large numbers of highly qualified and well-paid staff from countries such as India, the US, and other places. So these are the most obvious beneficiaries. So going into my methodological insights and data collection. So why the focus is on Polish and Romanian workers? There are 4 methodological reasons of focusing on the experiences of low-wage Polish and Romanian workers in the UK, but particularly my interviews are conducted mostly in London. So the first of all, both migrant groups are EU workers, and meaning that they will be affected by the UK points-based immigration system, because under the new system, freedom of movement will end and the EU citizens will be subject to the same rules as citizens of non-EU countries. Second, both Polish and Romanian workers have become symbols of the anti-EU populist discourse, especially after the Brexit vote. Third, both Polish and Romanian communities consist of higher number of EU migrant workers in the UK. And fourth of all, both Poles and Romanians work in essential businesses across the public and private sector, while, for instance, Polish workers are significantly employed in the UK hospitality and construction sectors. The Romanian workers fill in labor vacancies in agricultural and domestic sectors and warehouse jobs. So far I conducted 15 interviews with 8 Polish workers and 7 Romanian workers in London, but the interviews were conducted online until now because of the pandemic. So what I aimed to examine their employment conditions and social life and everyday experiences. And 10 interviews were also conducted with British nationals to explore their perception on migrant workers, especially EU low-wage workers. So far my findings that I want to show you some examples of the narratives of Polish and Romanian workers. a 20 years old Polish worker. He says that I came to Britain 8 years ago to work in construction. Everything was fine. London felt like home until the UK voted to leave the EU. After the leave was a lot of Poles, including me, have experienced racism. An Englishman showed me clauses on his hand and said that go back to your country. We don't need Polish plumbers. When referring to Poles, they, the British nationals, keep saying plumber to undervalue our occupation. So here he is highlighting the fact that the hierarchies of skills is basically influencing their everyday life and their belonging in the British society. The other example of a Romanian worker says that I'm a warehouse worker, came to London 6 years ago, and I'm worried about the post-Brexit periods. And we Romanians have already been experiencing racism, in the UK, and for a long time, and I do not feel safe when British people say you are Romanian gypsies and you come here just to take our jobs and you take benefits. The UK government will introduce a new immigration policy to exclude the recruitment of low-wage workers who will pick fruit and harvest vegetables if we, like Romanians, go. And carries on that my friends are agricultural workers and it's not an easy job. It's repetitive and often requires 12-hour shifts. I'm not sure if British people are willing to work hard, and British people should not be against Romanians because we are here to work and contribute to their economy. So again, in this code, we also see that the undervaluing of skills and the hierarchies based on the skills and occupations are highlighted. So it doesn't, I haven't collected enough data to tell you that they also themselves recreate these categories. But they're aware of these categories and they're aware that these categories are influencing their sense of belonging and future prospects in the UK. And I also collected some data through my interviews with British nationals. Here there are two examples, and a British business person says that I'm happy that Britain finally closed its borders to low-skilled East European migrants, especially Poles and Romanians. Some of them came here to work, but majority of them came here to live on benefits. They can work, but they do not want to work. We don't need to look after them. There are many unemployed British people who can work in construction. We don't want criminals, brokers, gypsies in our country. And another participant said that I think the new immigration policy will be good for our country. And we should accept highly skilled migrants who can contribute to innovative activities and entrepreneurship. So here the second example again talks about the skills and refer to highly skilled migrants as civilized, as individuals who can contribute to the economy. But on the other hand, the low-skilled migrant workers are considered as criminals, and they live on benefit, and the symbol of Polish plumbers and Romanian strawberry pickers, therefore, is very much associated with how the Brexit campaign created these images of them as uncivilized, unmodern, and not threat to the national society. So, so far I can conclude that knowledge and skills are classed. So we are here, we can see that there is a class issue here in relation to how skills are referred to. And the populist framing associated with the image of Polish plumbers and Romanian strawberry pickers determine the form and function of the social relationship of the Polish and Romanian workers, their social relationship with the members of British society, with British nationals, but there are also social relationships with the highly skilled workers in their community. And the hierarchical classification of migrants, therefore the division between low-skilled and highly skilled, high-skilled or professional, has also impacted how British society creates their own categories as well. So this therefore reminds me that this Gramscian common sense perspective becomes the norm, because the majority of British national, as we can see from the survey results as well, they believe that the low-skilled migrants are not contributing to the economy, and they're a threat to their national identity and economy as well. So this might be linked with Gramscian common sense perspective, but I will be collecting more data to support this idea. So this is all from me.